everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to go over some tips for taking the SAT, and this isn't a comprehensive guide to it, but it's a good place to start if you're looking for quick methods that will help you to test better on the SAT. And this can also go for the ACT as well. I'm just saying SAT because that's kind of what I was thinking as I wrote these out, but most of them you can also apply to the ACT. Tip number one is to study, which you were probably expecting I would say because everyone says to study, but it does really help. Even if you're the kind of person that can usually take a test and ace it without even studying, this is a very specific test. And I heard somewhere that, I don't remember where it was, that the SAT is more of a test of how well you can take the SAT, not an actual test of your knowledge, which I don't know if that's true. But either way, study. So what I did last time I took the SAT was I got this really massive test prep book, which is very daunting and annoying and frustrating and not fun, but it helps. And in here there's not only practice tests, but there's also a lot of guides on particular skills that you need to know for the SAT that'll help you, especially in the math section. I thought it was helpful because it reminded me of concepts that I hadn't learned in a couple of years. So the prep book is a great way to review your knowledge, and more importantly, the practice tests. The practice tests will really let you know how to budget your time on the SAT, which when you're taking the test, you don't want it to be your first time figuring out how long should I be spending on each question. So yeah, I really recommend this prep book. Also, Khan Academy, if you don't feel like buying a prep book, you can go on Khan Academy. The prep books are cheap though. If you go on eBay, you can get a used one for like less than $20, I think, but I'm not sure. And Khan Academy has a lot of practice questions as well, so if you're like in school, you can go on Khan Academy and practice. One thing I found helpful when I was doing the SAT and the practice tests was to read the question and first try to answer it in my head if it was a reading question, and try to think of what the answer might be on my own, and then read the multiple choice, because then if there was a multiple choice that agreed with what I was thinking in my head, I felt much more confident about choosing that as the answer. Likewise, if it's a math problem that you're going to have to do out by hand anyway, do it out, and if the number matches one of the multiple choice, then you know you've probably done it correctly. So try to answer the question before you look at the multiple choice answers. Something that's really helpful that you've probably heard many times is process of elimination. So if you know something is not the answer, or even if it looks a little bit too complex or too simple or just off, cross it off. Just because then your brain's not trying to consider that as an answer at the same time. It makes it so much easier. Cross off anything that you know is not going to be correct. So one thing that a lot of people don't know about the SAT is that all the questions are worth the same exact value. The easy questions are worth just as much as the hard ones, which means you don't want to balance your time like not well and focus on one question more than the other just because you think it might have more points, because that's not true. They all have the same amount of points. For example, you don't want to breeze through the easy questions thinking they're not worth much and then spend a lot of time on the hard ones. Spend as much time as you can getting the easy ones right, because those should be easier points that are worth just as much as the hard points. Always check your work if you have extra time at the end. It's really tedious, especially when you've been testing for several hours, to go back and look at stuff again and again. But this test is just... But you're not going to have a chance to go back again and redo answers. And you might have made a mistake that's not even like that big of a mistake. Maybe you bubbled in the wrong answer. So just always go back and recheck your work. Another mistake people often make is skipping questions that they don't know the answer to. Never do this. Always guess if you don't know the answer, because you're not penalized for wrong answers. No points are going to be taken off if you bubble in the wrong letter. So always guess, because you have a chance of getting it right and getting that point. If you get it wrong, it's not going to hurt your score at all. So always fill in any answer when you don't know. Also, if you are going to do guessing, make sure that you're filling in the same letter every single time. So let's say you have 4 problems in a row that you don't know the answer to. Fill in every single one of them as A or C. It's computer generated, so it's completely random, and this means that you have a better, statistically speaking, chance of getting at least one of them right if you guess the same letter every single time. So don't go A, C, B, B, just do B, 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 or D, 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 if you do have to guess. Always read carefully. This is kind of a given, but just don't go too quickly if you're trying to rush through the test, because you might miss a negative sign, or you might miss a connotation in a word that the reading test has put out that's very specific that'll help you answer it. So make sure you're paying attention to exactly what the question's asking for before you try to answer it. One thing I discovered when I was working with one of my teachers, she was helping me prep for the SAT, and we were looking at the answers from my PSAT that I had taken, and whenever I got one wrong, I always got like the next two wrong after it, because apparently I panicked and I knew I was wrong while I was taking it, so then I screwed up on the next two as well. So I guess the moral of the story here is don't panic if you think you have it wrong. Just pretend it never happened and move on, because I made that mistake apparently. I don't know why I did it, but it just happens. So watch out for that while you're taking the test. Lastly, read up online about a lot of specific tips for the writing test and the reading test, the math test, because even though I'm giving these general tips here that'll help you with really any section of the SAT, there are a lot of very particular things that you might need to know about the reading section that you don't know. There's just a lot of stuff out there that I didn't necessarily cover, and you never know if you might find a website that really helps you in particular. So this was a really quick video about just some general tips. If you're prepping for the SAT, good luck, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more. And thank you for watching.